Aussie tennis fans have united to give American tennis player Danielle Collins a send-off to remember after her bolshy on-court antics earned her villain status at the Oz Open. But who got the last laugh?
Danielle Collins.
Okay.
Booed onto the court, then bounced out of the Open.
They booed her on, they boo her off.
A hostile Melbourne crowd had the last laugh last night as Danielle Collins lost out to Madison Keys in straight sets.
I expected that, obviously. I mean, I really do enjoy playing in these types of environments. That's what you work so hard for your entire life.
Collins cementing herself as public enemy #1 this week, taunting a furious crowd after dramatically defeating Aussie player Destiny Iava.
And she's giving it to the crowd.
Danielle loves a bit of friction.
You know, I was thinking during the match, I was like, if I'm out here, I might as well just take that big fat paycheck. Coco and I, we love a good 5-star vacation. So part of that check is gonna go towards that. So thank you guys.
It's not the Australian way to do it. It's not my cup of tea, the way that she handled herself.
She's probably glad to be on the plane today heading back to the US.
And while some have declared the outburst bad sportsmanship,
my view is, yeah, she's a brat. When you get people like Danielle Collins, who lives this lifestyle and then rubs our noses in it, I thought that overstepped the mark.
others have jumped to her defence.
Big fan of Danielle Collins after that. I was before, but now I love it.
As Collins cashed in.
I've had 6 different sponsorships opportunities come up this tournament alone.
Collins far from the first star to clash with Aussie tennis fans who love to hate an on-court villain.
Win the match.
From Daniel Medvedev, who lashed out at our crowds last year.
It's not everybody who is doing it, but those who are doing it probably have a low IQ.
To local bad boy Nick Kyrgios, who had one fan ejected. To everyone's favourite target, Novak Djokovic.
Someone in the crowd must have said something to Novak, and he's saying, come down to the court and say it to my face.
And it's drama and it's excitement and adds to the sport.
Kyrgios always puts on a good show.
Throw your racket.
So, do temper tantrums and tirades equal bad sportsmanship?
Thank you guys, love ya.
Or just a better show for Aussie tennis fans?
Part of the game.
It's brutal out here.
Well, Aussie tennis legend Pat Cash is here to tell us a bit more. Pat, you obviously played against the original on-court brat. So on a scale of 1 to McEnroe, where do you place Danielle Collins?
Probably about a 1, to be honest. You know, she's a feisty character, really, but yeah, I mean, certainly back in my day, there was Jimmy Connors and John McEnroe, Ilie Nastase at the end of his career, and boy, did he put on some tricks. So
is part of it that you've actually got to back up the attitude with some pretty good quality playing?
Well, that helps. I mean, at the end of the day, you just got to focus on the match, and you know, sometimes it's very hard when the crowds are throwing insults at you and chanting, and you know, it's all sorts of stuff where people are banging on cans, throwing cans, whistling as you're about to serve, all that sort of stuff. We've had to deal with that in Davis Cup when you play away from home, but you know, in many ways sometimes it can help because you really have to focus on what's at hand, and that is getting the ball back into the court. And
what's some of the worst stuff you came up against while you were on the court, Pat?
Oh, when I was actually former Yugoslavia, we had some great stories where the crowd were, every time you threw the ball up, they would cough as you're about to hit the serve. So you'd be best serving and you throw the ball, just as you're about to hit serve, the whole crowd would go, which was great because it was exactly the same time as I was grunting. So I never heard a single word, never heard them ever.
What about opponents-wise? I mean, what did you cop when you were across the net from John McEnroe?
Oh, look, I learned a lot from those guys. You know, the first year that I was on tour, I ended up playing, I played Jimmy Connors, I played John McEnroe and Ilie Nastase all in about, in a couple of months. And so you have to grow up pretty quickly and sort of fight fire with fire. And in many ways, I respect Danielle Collins for that. I know you're, you know, that's, you know, what we're talking about here, but you know, I've got to laugh. I can say, okay, when I first saw the clips and saw some of the matches, some of the points live, and I was going, oh, she's in for a world of pain here. And then at the end, when she, you know, at the end of the match, and in the interviews, she was sort of going, well, kiss my ass. I kind of thought, well, good on her, for she's been copping abuse for 3 hours, right? And then she turns around, and if you give it, you've got to take it. It's as simple as that. So it's a different story when you come down to Australia. the crowds are, I would say they're getting into a mob mentality, and if they've had a few drinks in them as well, and they're going crazy, I think personally, I think it's been out of hand a little bit, gone too far the last few years, and you know, I think that it's a respect for the international players. What we don't want is international players to say, you know, I'm treated so badly when I come to Australia. The crowds are so bad that, you know, I'm not going to come. I think the top players deal with that. I don't think they will say no and stay away, but there's a possibility if it gets too rowdy. But you know, so some of the lesser players will say, you know what, I just didn't enjoy that. I was just copying abuse.
Pat, I've got another theory about Danielle. I think because TikTok's now been banned in America, this is just her showing that Americans can still be annoying in real life as well.
Well, Americans are loud, and you know, I've coached a couple of American female players, and they're very, very confident. That's the way they've been raised. You know, it's just like get out there, you know, have a go. You know, they're kind of empowered, and sometimes it's tough to coach those sort of players. And Danielle's always been feisty, and you know, if a player gets into your head, yeah, you're in a bit of trouble. So, you know, Nick Kyrgios obviously tries to do that. We go back to, as you said, Connors and McEnroe and these sort of guys. They get into your head. If you want to let them get into your head, then they will.
Just thinking back to those gentler times when we'd lock them up in hotel quarantine instead. Pat Cass, thank you very much.
Thanks very much, guys.